Hello, road scholars. Welcome back to Highway Hacks. I am your host, Penny. Did you hear that? My heart just skipped a beat. I'm at the weigh station and the sign didn't say bypass. It said report to inspection area. For many drivers, this is the most stressful part of the job. You're on time, you're moving fast, and suddenly, everything stops. A level 1 inspection is the most thorough check there is. They check the driver and they check every mechanical part of the vehicle. To help me stay calm and professional, I've invited the person who actually performs these inspections. She's seen the best and the worst of the road. Please welcome Officer Shelly. Shelly, thank you so much for being here. I've been driving for 14 years and level 1 inspections still make me nervous. Can you tell our listeners what you're actually looking for when you pull someone over? Penny, I appreciate the question. First, let me say, most drivers don't need to be nervous. If your truck is maintained properly, you'll pass. A level 1 inspection is what we call a North American standard inspection, and it's the most comprehensive inspection we conduct. We look at everything, from the cab to the frame, under the truck, and through the documentation. Everything. That's a lot of ground to cover. It can be, but here's the thing. We're not trying to trap you. We're trying to keep the road safe. A truck that's falling apart is a danger to everyone. Right, so before we get into the details, can you walk our listeners through the different inspection levels? I know there's a level 1, level 2, and level 3. What's the difference? Absolutely. Let me break this down. A level 1 inspection, the North American standard, is what we call a full inspection. I'm talking about an examination of the entire vehicle. The driver, the documents, the vehicle's exterior, under the vehicle, everything. This usually takes 30 minutes to an hour, maybe longer if we find issues. A level 2 inspection is a walk-around inspection. This is what you see at a weigh station, for example. I walk around the truck, check the tires, lights, mirrors, basic safety equipment. It's faster, maybe 10 to 15 minutes. I'm looking for obvious violations. A level 3 inspection is driver only. I check your commercial driver's license, your hours of service logbook or your electronic logging device, your ELD, and your vehicle registration. No vehicle inspection, maybe 5 minutes, if that. Then there are specialized inspections. Level 4 is for hazmat violations, level 5 is for compliance review, and level 6 is for vehicle inspection only, but those are less common. So a level 1 is the worst case scenario. That's the one where I need to prepare the most, right? Not the worst case. Let's say it's the most thorough. And yes, preparation is key. That's what we're here to discuss today. All right, let's talk about documentation first. A lot of drivers aren't sure what documents they're supposed to have when they get pulled over. What do you need to see?
3 main things. First, your commercial driver's license, your CDL. It needs to be valid and the endorsements need to match what you're hauling. If you're driving a tanker, you need a tanker endorsement. If you're hauling hazmat, you need a hazmat endorsement. Second, your vehicle registration and proof of insurance. Both need to be current and valid. Third, and this is critical, your hours of service documentation. If you're using an electronic logging device, an ELD, I need to see that it's working properly and compliant with regulations. If you're using paper logs, those need to be filled out correctly and accurately for the past 8 days. What about the bill of lading, the BOL? I always have that in the cab. Good catch. Yes, your bill of lading is important. It tells me what you're carrying, where it's going, and who's paying. But it's not the primary focus of a level 1. The main documentation I'm checking is the license, registration, insurance, and hours of service. And what are you looking for in those hours of service records? What mistakes do you see most often? Oh, plenty. Drivers not signing their logs, missing dates, hours that don't add up, logs that are filled out for the wrong day. The most common mistake I see is drivers who fill out their logbook at the end of the day instead of recording their time in real time. If the hours don't match the ELD data, or if there are big gaps, that's a red flag. How can someone avoid that? Simple. Do it right the first time. Fill out your log as you go. If you're using an ELD, make sure you're updating it properly. If you switch from on-duty to driving, record that immediately. And always double-check before you hand it over to me. One more documentation question. I've heard some drivers talk about pre-trip inspection reports. Is that something you need to see? Not necessarily part of the level 1, but it's best practice. Many companies require drivers to do a pre-trip inspection report, a DVIR, a driver vehicle inspection report, every day. If you've noted defects on your DVIR and you've reported them to your company, that shows me you're being responsible. If I see defects that were on your DVIR but not fixed, that's a problem. So that's actually a good thing to have. Absolutely. It shows due diligence. All right, so I've got my paperwork in order. Now Shelly is going to walk around my truck. What exactly is she looking at?
I start at the front of the vehicle. I'm checking the headlights, parking lights, fog lights, all the lighting. Do they work? Are they cracked? Then I check the windshield. Is there damage that obstructs your view? I check the wipers and the washer fluid. Next, I look at the tires. Tread depth, that's critical. I'm looking for at least 4 30-seconds of an inch of tread depth in the drive axle tires and 2 30-seconds on all other tires. I check for uneven wear, which might indicate alignment issues. I look for bulges, cracks, or repairs, anything that makes the tire unsafe. So tread depth is critical. How do drivers check their tread depth? Easy, the penny test. Take a penny, a US penny, and insert it into the tread with Lincoln's head upside down and facing you. If you can see the top of Lincoln's head, your tread is too worn. But for commercial drivers, the standards are stricter than that penny test. I've always used that penny test, but like you said, the standards are higher for commercial vehicles. Right, and smart drivers know that. They check their tires regularly and replace them before they reach the minimum threshold. It's safer and cheaper in the long run. I also check for proper tire pressure. Underinflated tires are a fire hazard and increase fuel consumption. Overinflated tires compromise handling.
What about the brakes? Brakes are one of the most critical systems on a truck. I check the brake hoses, the air hoses that control the braking system, for chafing. That's wear that happens when the hose rubs against the frame or other components. Chafed hoses can leak air or rupture, and then your brakes fail. I also check for slack adjusters. These are components on the brake drums that maintain the proper distance between the brake pads and the drums. A faulty slack adjuster means your brakes won't work properly. Slack adjusters. Can you explain that a little more? I think a lot of drivers understand they have brakes, but not all of them know the mechanics. Good question. Your braking system works by applying pressure to the brake pads, which press against the brake drums. As the pads wear down, the distance between the pads and the drums increases. The slack adjuster compensates for that wear automatically. If the slack adjuster is failing, the brakes won't apply consistently. So a bad slack adjuster means inconsistent braking. Exactly. And that's dangerous, especially when you're hauling 40, 50 tons downhill. I also check the brake drums themselves. Are they cracked, contaminated with oil or grease? I check for air leaks in the brake system. I look under the truck and listen. If I hear a hissing sound, that's an air leak. The braking system is pressurized. If there's a leak, you might lose braking power. And what if I fail on brakes? You'll get an out-of-service order. That means you don't drive that truck until the brakes are fixed and re-inspected. That's serious. It is, because brake failure is serious. It costs lives. What else are you looking at during the walk-around? I check mirrors and windows. Can you see properly? I check for cracked windows, which can be a safety hazard. I look at coupling devices, the fifth wheel on a tractor, the pintle hook. Are they properly maintained? Are they cracked or bent? I check the frame. Any cracks? Any signs of stress? I look at the lights again from the back. Tail lights, brake lights, turn signals. I check the reflectors and reflective tape. They need to be visible at night. I check seat belts, and I make sure the truck has fire extinguishers and warning triangles or flares in the cab. I also check that the truck is properly registered and placarded if it's carrying hazmat. That's a comprehensive check. And how long does that walk around usually take? 15 to 20 minutes if everything looks good. Longer if I find issues. You mentioned something earlier about going under the truck. You called it the creeper phase. That sounds ominous. What's happening down there? It's not ominous. It's thorough. I use a creeper, which is a low platform that lets me roll under the truck to inspect components that I can't see from above. And what are you looking for down there? Everything related to the running gear. The suspension, springs, shock absorbers, U-bolts. I'm looking for cracks, damage, or missing components. Springs are critical. If a spring is broken, the truck is unstable. I check the drive shaft. Is it bent? Damaged? I check the exhaust system. Cracks, improper routing, anything that could be a safety hazard. I check the steering components, the tie rods, the steering arm. Loose or damaged steering is extremely dangerous. I look at the fuel tanks. Are they properly secured? Are there leaks? I check under the fifth wheel, the coupling that connects the tractor to the trailer. Is there proper lubrication? Is the locking pin secure? A failed fifth wheel means the trailer separates from the tractor. That's catastrophic. That's a nightmare scenario. It is, and it's preventable with proper maintenance. I also check the brake tubing underneath. I'm looking for exposed tubing, improper support, kinks, or damage. I check the hoses again from underneath. So you're really looking at the entire undercarriage. I am, and this is where a lot of trucks fail. Drivers might maintain the exterior and the cabin, but the undercarriage gets neglected. That's a mistake. How long does the creeper phase take? 10 to 15 minutes, unless I find problems.
So after you've checked everything, what happens? What are the possible outcomes? There are 3 main outcomes. 1, a clean inspection. You pass everything. I give you a report, and you're on your way. Congratulations, your truck is safe. 2, warnings. I find minor violations that don't immediately affect safety. Maybe a headlight lens is cracked or a marker light is missing. You get a written warning. You need to fix it within a certain time frame, typically 15 days for some violations. You can still drive the truck, but you need to correct the issue. 3, out of service or OOS. This is serious. I find a violation that makes the truck unsafe to operate. Failed brakes, blown tires, structural damage, missing safety equipment, anything that poses an immediate risk. You don't drive that truck until it's fixed and re-inspected by another officer. So if I get an OOS, I'm stuck. You're stuck until you fix it. You'll need to get the truck repaired and have another inspection. And depending on the violation, you might face fines or other penalties. What's the difference between a warning and an OOS? Is it clear-cut? Usually. The regulations are pretty specific. Brakes, steering, coupling devices, tires, those are usually OOS violations if they're not within acceptable parameters. Lighting, mirrors, some defects on brakes that don't affect immediate operation, those are often warnings. And how many warnings can you get before you're looking at bigger problems? That depends on your record. If you accumulate too many violations in a short period of time, your company might be audited or you might face increased scrutiny. But one warning isn't the end of the world. It's a wake-up call. Fix the issue and move on. That's good to know. Any final advice for drivers who are nervous about inspections? Yes, maintain your truck. Do your pre-trip inspections. Keep your logs current and accurate. Know your regulations. And remember, I'm not out here to ruin your day. I'm out here to make sure the roads are safe. If your truck is safe, you'll pass. Simple as that. That's great advice, Shelly. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us. My pleasure, Penny. Thanks for having me. All right, folks, that's episode 16 of Highway Hacks. You've learned about the 3 levels of DOT inspections, the critical areas that officers check, and what to expect if you get pulled over. Here's what you should take away. First, maintain your truck. Check your tires, brakes, lights, and hoses regularly. Most level 1 failures happen because drivers don't maintain their vehicles. Second, keep your documentation in order. Your CDL, registration, insurance, and hours of service need to be current and accurate. Third, do your pre-trip inspections. It takes time, but it prevents problems down the road. And finally, don't be intimidated by inspections. They're not a trap, they're a safety measure. If your truck is maintained properly, you'll pass. If you have questions about DOT inspections or any other trucking topics, drop a comment below. And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe and leave a review. Shelly, thank you. I feel like the mystery of the inspection is gone. It's just about being prepared. Exactly, Penny. If you do a real pre-trip inspection every morning, you should never be surprised by me at the weigh station. In our next episode, episode 17, we are going to talk about the paycheck. We'll discuss cents per mile, accessory pay, and how to read your settlement sheet. That's the best part of the job. Good luck, Penny. Thanks, Officer Shelly. See you next time on Highway Hacks.